wanted to serve the people who have come such a long way and orient towards what they might be most touched by. And so I always just wait, something comes in, I write things out, and then I see what wants to be said. The conversation at the dinner table was devotion. And in my world and what I've observed with those that genuinely are being drawn to who they are, what has given them life, what is leading this life, every encounter, every teacher, every teaching is, if you would want to call it that, preordained, meaning you are drawn and guided every moment of the way. Now, whether we hear it or not, that's usually takes a little while to really hear it clearly. What I felt that really wanted to be looked at deeply tonight, and though it seems very preliminary, but what actually is awakening? What actually is awakening? And we've all had the experience, and for many of us, many decades, of the searching. And the searching can be as simple as just waking up one morning and realize that all the successes that you've had in life, or all the deep despair you've had in life, nothing actually touched what wants to know itself. And I've talked to many people through the almost 22 years I've been teaching, of different experiences of people being very wonderful. They have a great effect in the world. They have a good life. They may have good relationships. They have good families. They're abundant. They're successful. And then I've also talked to people that their lives are so full of sorrow and suffering, and, in many different ways: addiction, loss of relationships, loss of everything, literally, ending up in the streets with nothing. But the common movement in those that live a very successful life, and those that from the outside we don't know karmically what's actually going on, that a very chaotic, tumultuous life is mysteriously and uniquely, something wakes up and it wants to know itself. It wants to recognize itself. Now quickly, the mind grabs that. Great. So it wants to know itself, and the mind quickly grabs that and goes, I, the ego, wants to, and then fill in the blanks. For some of us, we just maybe had an extremely mind that was full of suffering. For others, we were talking at dinner, we're just born with a kind of love of God and love of we just had a devotion. It wasn't that we were taught that or someone, helped us with that. We were just born with that. So it doesn't really matter what the movement is, but we start to follow that movement. And for some of us, we've gone around the world. We've gone to, beautiful teachers in Tibet and India and Nepal. For others, we did the retreat. You go from California to New York to wherever the latest teacher was that we felt drawn to. A lot of that, of course, is karma. We just have a certain lineup to certain traditions that we feel more comfortable with. Some of us have had difficult relationships with teachers, a lot of sense of betrayal and misused, and for others, perhaps it was, in my own case, I was just drawn to certain, the indigenous for many years, worked with medicine people. Buddhism was always a part of my life. I remember sitting in a group of people back in the late 60s, and I always loved Jesus. I didn't believe the teachings that came out of Christianity. I just had a real pure love. And so that sense of sitting around and talking, and no one knew what they were talking about. It was in the late 60s. And someone said, meditation allows you to have a direct experience. And I went, okay. So for me, it was going back and forth, to indigenous training and medicine people, and Buddhist training and different Buddhist teachers. But what I'm trying to impart, and again, I'm really trying to touch what Bert encouraged to explore. What is awakening? What is that? And so that we've all gone through that. I'm pretty sure maybe a few of us didn't go through the search mode, but most of us went in search. And then we began to realize that what we were searching for actually was within us. It was something that just woke up, who knows why, what that kind of ripeness or the ability to, listen to that yearning and then to follow that yearning. And so there was a certain point that we realized that actually we were searching outside of ourselves. We were searching for others to be able to tell us how it was. And of course, a guide and a teacher in my world is, I would say, necessary. There's a lot of twists and turns. But we began to dawn that actually what we were looking for was within us. And perhaps we started to have certain experiences. Through a teacher, that's the gift. One of the gifts of the teacher is they have realized their nature, and they can speak and move and transmit from that. And then, as there is when we come together, there's a certain resonance that begins to happen. And where two or more are gathered, I am. And that I am begins to build within the group, the Sangha. And then it begins to resonate in even a greater way our own nature, our shared nature. So that then begins to support certain, perhaps, insights. For some of us that are a little more mentally wired, we begin to understand and see perhaps a certain teaching, a certain experience that we've had. For others that are wired up a little bit more, maybe intuitively, a little heartfully, we begin to feel a quality that is within us, that it knows itself. It isn't like someone needs to tell you, yep, that's what you're looking for. When it starts to be touched and opened, and it starts to ignite, it's like a fire that begins to ignite itself. And it knows itself. And so the more those are glimpsed, that knowing of itself, the less there is a tendency to maybe go to this tradition, this teacher, this book, this whatever. And we start to bring and gather all of that searching back unto where it originated and where it always is, forevermore. There is no getting it or losing it, or there is no finding it and then, having a real dry period where we don't feel anything. All of that is just part of the waves that becomes touched and ignited by retreats, certain practices, certain teachers, certain perhaps books that we read. But the more there's a touching, and that's really what it is. It's like it starts to be touched in a way, what we've been looking for, that it starts to come from the background into the foreground. And it's like this light that has always been shining. It's actually allowed you to live this life. We'd be a pile of ash if it wasn't the illuminating force of everything. Literally everything is imbued and touched and expressed with what we're looking for. It's that obvious, that apparent, that everywhere. And the more it's seen and the deeper it permeates the mind-body structure, the more it liberates the mind-body structure. So the more light there is, the more lighted awareness, the more it begins to bring forth what hinders that brilliant light that constantly burns, right? And so very deep patterns in most cases start to be illuminated. And those patterns were held back and sort of tucked away because they were just simply too painful at the time to really bring forth. And it was love that said, okay, sweetheart, let's just temper that down a little bit. And when you're ready, when you have enough of your own recognition, enough of realizing that you are the light of awareness that illuminates what it's not, then that actually goes even deeper and deeper and deeper. And most of you, I think here, if not all, have experienced that very, very deep and painful patterns coming to the surface of consciousness. And it's not a mistake, it's not you're being punished, it's not you're not getting these beautiful, wonderful insights that keep coming perhaps in a more frequent way. That you've somehow blown it or you've somehow missed it, you're not getting it. But the actuality, it's the exact opposite. It's the more the light brightens, the more awake, the more it recognizes itself, the more these deep patterns are brought forward, not as a punishment or something that shouldn't be happening. You know, you're missing the boat if you're not realizing these very painful patterns. It's quite the opposite. It's love. And it's brilliance of being that's bringing these patterns forward. And the more that they're seen from more of this bright awareness, they're recognized as absolutely, and I mean absolutely, none of them are current or true. None of them. They all are in the past. And we have some hellacious stories to tell each other. How we were treated and what happened to us as children and, all of those. Very, very difficult not to brush them off or spiritualize them. It's to bring them out and to allow this bright consciousness that's getting brighter all along to permeate them, to see them, to make them conscious. And then energetically, it literally, that loving attention, that loving consciousness, it dissolves them. So you don't walk around trying to manage your life. You walk around without them dictating or being a part of your life. When that begins to accelerate, and the acceleration is, for most of us, a long time. For myself, I would say decades of looking and looking and looking and looking and letting patterns go and seeing them through and realizing the truth of my nature and, You just begin to realize over and over and over and over, it's all in the past. But they haven't quite been brought to consciousness. They haven't quite been brought to love and compassion. And for a very strange reason, and I still don't know why that is, we learn to love and forgive others before we learn to love and forgive ourselves. We're sort of the last included. I'm not quite sure that happens, but it's rare when it is the opposite. But then eventually you realize that you are made up of that love. You are made up of the same substance as, the mountains, the trees, the streams, all of those that you interact with, those that you love and those that maybe you haven't quite opened to. We are all made up of the same substance. So when that starts to glean, then this separate person waking up, getting somewhere or not getting somewhere, collapses. And it all becomes one open field of wisdom, of love, of kindness, of authenticity. And when that begins to take place, then the liberation continues for most, but it's seen from this loving, open clarity. It's no longer seen as my pain or pride or lack or whatever it is. There's a Zen tradition, and I really like that term, and it's called the red thread. And most of us have entered with a particular theme, and it's only one or two root themes. And if you get in touch with that, you begin to see that red thread that follows you through this incarnation, you've brought it in with you. And again, it's love, not punishment. And the love is, okay, sweetheart, let's just create all sorts of different relationships and all sorts of different dances and plays for this to be seen through thoroughly and therefore freed up, no longer bound by that follows us. I begin to see that in relationships. I had very unconscious first marriage, and so that one was over. And then I had, it was in the 70s, and had a few lovers here and there, and relationships here and there. And then I met the love of my life, and what I would call my soulmate. And guess what? Same pattern in each and every one. So I had to look at the red thread. What was constant in my work, with my children, with my relationships? Everything had a theme eventually. And so again, Grace, and my beautiful teacher, pointed it out. Take it home. That is what's wanting to liberate. It wasn't my partner's fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't anything. It was just simply a pattern that I came in with that wanted to be freed. And I got many, many, many opportunities to see it. That's one of the great keys, is what is being triggered in you is something that is painful and is being touched and is being triggered. It's your trigger. When that's recognized not as an idealism or as a sort of intellectual, spiritual ideal, literally, you as an individual have become free. Do you get that? Do you hear that? It isn't depending on someone else to get it all together so you will feel good. We are here to fully liberate all the layers that have been compiled and composited through eons of incarnations. And when that realization starts to come through, that life is a loving support. You say, yeah, well, I did this, I've experienced this in childhood, and this happened to me here, and I really suffered there, and on and on and on. And it's not to negate that at all. Not at all. It's the exact opposite. It's to open and embrace it and draw it into the heart, into your loving, bright, open awareness. And when it hits the wall, it feels too painful. It wants to blame something or anybody else just to get the pain away. Open. Listen. Enter. And then that particular place of pain and resistance and pushing it away and defending, it has nothing to bounce against. That's the great transformation, is the realization that all of it is in the past and none of it is currently true. That's the biggest one, or one of the big ones. And the other is the trigger that you're feeling in life is your own. And it's not a punishment. It's love. And then what already is unfolding and revealing itself and all these layers of karma and resistance and defense and compensation, which were all coming from wisdom at a certain point, they just drop away. And now, it's this brilliance that has always been present, but it's no longer conditioned and managed and projected. It's like what they call, I am now naked. There's nothing here that's dimming out your natural divine presence. I know, Kirsten, you pointed out something very beautifully with our group meditation. And you were saying it wasn't my loving, it's simply opening the heart. And that's the key. Because when I am loving, I'm loving, I'm over here, you're over there, I'm loving you, right? And if you don't play the game quite right, then I may not love you anymore. And I know that wasn't exactly what you were saying, but that's the duality of love. I love you, I don't love you, I this, I that. But when the heart opens, it is loving, right? It's loving. And then when it sees itself in the myriad of forms, there may be those that you're drawn and those that you move away from. That's just the dance of life. But when the heart is open and loving is pouring forth, and is one channel, as it pours forth, it also receives equally. Then one begins to see oneself in the trees and the animals and other humans and the mountains and the sky. And then one is in loving. I'll see if I can find this. I reread Dr. Hopkins. I don't know if any of you read his work or have sit with him or anything. And a good friends of mine sit with him for quite a while. See if I can find this. He gave his description of what waking up. It's long, so I won't read all of it. There's only a continuous state of now. There are neither events nor happenings, because all starts and stops, all beginnings and endings occur only in the dualistic consciousness of an observer. And in their absence, there's no succession of events to be described or explained. It's just all happening, right? It's one interconnected field of life and beingness. And all forms come up, and they form, and they experience themselves, and then they fall back into the ground and dissolve. And this is the great continuum. The great constancy is the source, the ground, the primordial womb, the all potentiality that we all arise and express and come home again. And it's one presence. The suffusion of the presence throughout the totality and essence of all that exists is exquisite in its gentleness, and its touch is like a meltingness. Now that's, of course, as it burns through the real hell realms. That doesn't feel gentle. And the inner self is its very core. In the ordinary world, only the surfaces of things can be touched. But in the presence, it is the innermost essence of everything that is interspersed with every other thing. Isn't that exquisite? So it's not broken up by past and present and fear of the future. You know, it's all one living, awake, pulsating, alive, birthing, dying itself continuously. And we are that. And that binding force, if you want to call it, the presence, whatever you want to call that, is love or compassion. It's not a matter of developing your capacity to love as it's more opening to what you are. And then you realize you're swimming in it, and you're breathing it, and you're composed of it, you're made up of it, and everything that can be seen and experienced is made up of that same fabric called presence, awakeness, love, essence, source. I use the word God because I love that word. But call it something that touches you. Because otherwise you're just going to end up, well, I believe this. Well, I don't believe that. You know, what's that? It's just another ego trying to gain some kind of identity. So living in compassion in this shrine room, in this temple, is this very essence of compassion. It's an extraordinary teaching of compassion. It's not someone just being a nice, compassionate person, though that may get you to the doorway. What opens you to compassion is the realization is that's the presence. That's another word would be love. That's the interconnected. We are compassion. It isn't that when you begin to realize your own nature, our shared nature, that you're a nice person and you serve others, you just begin to realize that that's naturally how it flows forth. It naturally serves. There is no one person that deserves it and another that doesn't. That's an impossibility. in this field of living holy presence that unites and forms us all. I was listening to a really beautiful interview of my teacher with some other three men that he was quite close to. And one of the men was a teacher in his lineage, and his life was going along wonderfully. And he felt a little tired and kind of under the weather, and he went to the doctor and found out that he had level 4 lung cancer, and it had metastasized throughout his whole body. So in this interview, this talk, he was just talking about the depth and the layers that were burnt and cleared, and the lack of the future. So the ego wasn't trying to hold on to something and, to be the knower, or to hold on to not wanting to really open to the pain and see it as an experience from the past, but it actually wasn't a current experience. I mean, that's what you find. It's not negating it. It's just not currently true. And when he found that, one of the first things that he had to look at was, I don't know. I don't know. So all about, will I have enough money? Will I be able to have enough insurance? Can I take care of my family? Will I get well? All of that, he just lived in a place of, I don't know, which is actually the truth. And whether we have level 4 cancer, or whether we're, brilliantly awake and healthy, it's actually quite we don't know. And so he was just saying that layer after layer after layer, because of what he was experiencing, and the grief of his body no longer functioning in the way that it used to. He was quite active and bicycle rider, and went out to visit the redwoods all the time, and just little by little, that was just taken away. And instead of, he went through different phases, of course. Pain, grief, leaving his loved ones, leaving the earth. He loved the earth. Not being able to teach in the way that he had been able to before. But it didn't identify him. He said each time it would just, do you know this to be true? Is this actually, can I know this? And so it just began to throw him back into this open, spacious, interconnected availability. And it sounds like, I don't know, he doesn't know whether his time on the planet is limited. He said it was one of the greatest gifts that could ever have imagined. Because there was no holding back. We have our little pockets. We've had a very genuine self-recognition. And that self-recognition is just simply where the background comes into the foreground, where the identity collapses into the separate person and opens to the vastness and the presence and the brilliance and the unimaginable kindness and support. He said, I began to realize that all life was for me, not to me. So when the waking up, what we would identify as waking up, is when that shift happens, when we were identified with thoughts and background and memories and body and the limitation of, that little container called the body, that little container that we call our mind, and we live and identify in those little tiny containers, and the vastness is the actuality, the unlimited, unimaginable, multi-layered, ever-flowing, evermore reality. That's our nature. So the waking up, if you want to call it that, and I think it's a perfect description because you're walking around inside the contents of your head and how you perceive others and how you perceive yourself and how you perceive the world. And then in some beautiful and original and amazing way, it shifts. And the identity now is no longer identified with the thoughts in the head. They may see it and see, perhaps make it conscious or where it came from, or, there's insight for sure. But you're no longer identified with that little container and the thoughts called me. And for some, it's gradual, and for others, there can be repeated and repeated glimpses, and then just ba-boom, there you are. And it's just according to how you're wired up, how your karma goes. Devotion is a necessary. I guess the word would be relationship, and then even that falls away. But the relationship is one of love. It's devotion. It's I'll walk through the fires of hell for this. I will meet my most prideful, knowing, arrogant self. And believe you me, there are little pockets all around of that, the knower, the spiritual knower. It's one of the great traps in mature spiritual personalities, is the knower. And when that devotion, it just takes place. There's a willingness then to show up to your pride, show up to your arrogance, show up to your lack, show up to, whatever it is that's arising and that you're identified as. Show up to it. Just open to it. Be available to it. You don't have to change it or manage it or make it something different or less or more. You just open to it. And then this living, holy presence illuminates it, dissolves it, reharmonizes it. And then the life is something that you can't even describe. It just sounds kind of corny or trite. And it isn't saying this tradition is right, this tradition is wrong, this tradition is this tradition is that. All of that falls away, though you may be deeply devoted to a particular tradition. It's just what resonates with you. It just, it supports you in the highest, most beautiful way possible. But it isn't you're the knower and you're right and everyone else has missed the boat. That's just another dream. And then that freedom, the freedom to be unique, to, play whatever this body-mind wants to play, is available. And whatever collectively we're going through, and many people have different ideas about that right now on the planet, But we know it's a profound time of change. We do know that. And so do you want to meet it with a suffering mind that even becomes more full of suffering because that's what that mind is resonating with? Chaos, uncertainty, suffering. Or do you want to meet it with that sense of we are all interconnected here. We all come from the same primordial root. We have all chosen to be born in this time, at this time, to participate and hopefully to be of benefit. Whether it's a very active, you're out there, demonstrating, you're, being very vocal, very active. For others, it's maybe helping a certain situation that there's a lot of suffering. Just getting food to people right now is a form of great service. No more, no less. It's listening so deeply, not to the mind of what a good person does, but listening to what this particular mind-body structure can best serve. All the skills and the abilities and everything that we've gathered along the way, we dedicate to the benefit of all beings. And especially in this time, it's not just sort of sitting in your ivory tower and it's all going to go away sometime. It's actively participating, but actively participating from the open-heartedness, the open connection. We are all interconnected. We are all supported by both the deep wisdom that is within us and those that are in this room, the bodhisattvas, the great light beings, those that live in the mountains, those that live all around us. So that's waking up, is the realization that we are not here just being bombarded by insanity. Yes, there is insanity, there's no doubt about it. So waking up really is one of the most radical contributions you can make. But then what arises is a natural outpouring of how can I be of benefit. Not as a sweet, spiritual, syrupy helper. We've all either done that or we've been around that. That's not it. It's just that naturally, it just, the heart and everything is so full, it just pours out, right? It just pours forth. You don't have to take a side, or you don't have to make someone right or someone wrong. It just pours forth. It's in your life. So waking up is not some hierarchical, isolated, special state that only a few ever recognize. It's coming into the natural state of who we are and letting go what has been gathered along the way, resolved, dissolved, free of that. And then, how can I be of service? In my world, that's waking up. And the hierarchy and the specialness and the knower and I'm right and you're wrong and I've got it and you don't got it, and it all just falls away. It's not true. None of it is true. And maybe you'll have visions. Sometimes that happens, or you'll just have deep insights. And that all of this, as beautiful as this place is, as beautiful and amazing as all of this, equipment and the whole thing, floor, wall, you see it's all just alive images interweaving and inter-dancing with one another. It all is. And rather than taking away from life, it actually enriches it, because it's like this beautiful man that's sharing his process of dying. You realize how precious it all is, how miraculous it all is, how amazing it all is, how what you're looking for is everything is made up of that. And so you swim in this awake, brilliant, compassionate intelligence, as our friend James calls it. The guidance, the nurturing, the embracing, the kindness, life is for you, all of that comes rushing in. It's not a idealism, a nice, sweet, spiritual concept. It's the actuality. And you perfectly, absolutely, perfectly are in place with where the greatest support and wisdom and guidance and awakening for you. And there's just a kind of a deep relaxation into that. The beautiful Khenpos that are here, that bless this place, that in their image helps create this place. And Khenpo Jingmei, I love, he just makes these beautiful little movements, and he'll just go, just relax, just relax, just let it go. Just, it's not true. None of it is true. It's not this, it's this. So I'm making that very simple, but it is very, very simple at a certain point. You just walk through the storm and the hell realms and the liberation and the pain that you just don't think you can handle anymore because it's so compressed and it's so explosive and all that, and then it just comes down. Just relax. Just let it go. And all I can give is of my own experience, and I find that to be profoundly true. It's simple. Millions of books and words have been written about it, and they're all helpful. But it's so simple. It's so here. It's so available. It's so apparent. It's just a matter of opening, embracing, letting go. It permeates and penetrates the mind-body structure until these beautiful, profound experiences of retreats or meditation or practices, they are also realized in the life, in the body, functioning in a very ordinary way. on the cushion, off the cushion, same. And the fight's over. So I'm deeply touched by everyone here, and all of you come from such a long ways, and your dedication over decades. I'm really touched by that. And we were talking at dinner how 30 years ago, we could sit with teachers that were extraordinary. They were the real deal, you know. And for whatever reason, there just wasn't quite the collective openness that could allow this simple truth to be recognized and to be lived. And now, 30, 40 years, it's starting to mature. It's coming into the collective. And I am seeing an incredible acceleration. An incredible acceleration. It's time. And the younger people are bringing it in a very fast way. The babies being born are just like another species. They're so extraordinary. So it's time. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care what century you came from. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what your tradition is. None of that matters in the big picture, because everyone finds the very same recognition and experience of that recognition. I'm a bookaholic. I've read, I don't know how many, hundreds of books. And I can read them from, in fact, I just discovered this incredible book someone introduced me to at the retreat. 2,000 years ago it was found in southern China. And was one of the most exquisite, clear, beautiful, gorgeous books and descriptions I've ever read. And I can listen to, you know, my beloved teacher and many wonderful awake teachers, and they're all saying the same thing. You all discover the very same simplicity. And the only thing that does not allow it to be fully lived my beautiful friend Scott, we were having a meeting today, and he was saying, well, you know, put something in the newsletter. And I go, God, I hate it. No, I was just kind of being with that. And I want to, I think, end our talk with this. Is it's time. It really is time. The Mother Earth needs you. What's unfolding upon the earth needs you, your contribution. We've received glorious teachings. Everything is given to us right now. Every book, every secret teaching, everything on the planet is being poured into us now. There's help and assistance and brilliance coming from all the different realms, literally flooding us with the reality of our nature. It's time. And it's just the simple looking with your heart, not your head. What is still at war and still pushing it away and still being the knower or still whatever, fill in the blanks. And just open and embrace that. And on its own, it will dissolve and resolve itself. But it's time. Enough already. Awakening is freedom. Not freedom to do what you want, say what you want, and play out whatever you want. That's not the freedom I'm speaking of. It's the interconnectedness. It's the part of. It's the holy presence, the holy guidance, the inspiration, the constant unconditional loving and compassion for you and all beings equally, without exception. That's the freedom that we're speaking of. This life is this short. So fully occupy this life. And the simple question is, how can this life be of benefit? Simple question. And then see what unfolds. So let's just take a little break, and we'll be back at... Thank you for being with us. I fought Zoom for a long time, and I finally went around okay. So now I really appreciate it. That what? Well, I did. I fought it for a long time. And then I realized it was impossible at my house. So that helped to find the right place. But anyway. So let's just take 15 minutes or so, maybe a little more, with questions and answers. If you want to come up, that's wonderful. If that's just too big of a leap, we'll bring the microphone back to you. So I want you to be comfortable. It's helpful. You can talk about past experiences, and I'm always open to that. But it's also, what is it that's being touched right now? That's really the truth of it. So someone have something you're interested in or want to look at, or yeah, you want to come on up, Paul? Yeah.
I'm asking about the red thread. You
Yeah.
said there was one or two paths, I think. Is that the right word?
Themes.
One or two themes. Well, we all have different themes, so
Right.
What do you mean by only one or two?
Meaning it looks like, there's an issue with my boss, there's an issue with my kids, there's an issue with my wife or husband or friends or money or health. But when you really look deeply, just sit down with it and just write it out or whatever works for you. Just really look at the patterns, and you'll see maybe one or two. And then they just play themselves out in different ways in relationships. But if you get in touch with that one or two, my teacher calls them the roots, the root conditionings. I like the red thread just because it's kind of this interesting, I think it's a Zen image, and or the ox that tries to come through the window, and everything comes through except the tail, right? So that's that karmic lineage. You know, we've come in to recognize our nature, as far as I can see, and then to resolve what's not been resolved, period. And then this is the play. So if you get right down to, and you can see it pretty quickly, you know, every relationship you've ever had has told you in some way or the other. Or, you know, you'll hear stories. I mean, for 13 years before I started to teach and do dokusans, I did medical readings, and or just, you know, would talk to people. And you could just see it as clear as a bell. The story would start to say, well, you know, it's my boss, and da-da-da, and then they start to tell the history of their relationship with the current boss, and it's the same patterns that has played out over and over and over and over and over. Or, you know, relationship with money, relationship with, you know, your children, I mean, whatever. It's in those intimate relationships that's where they make themselves known. So if you just go, oh, well, whatever, not enough. How does that play out? You know, it's like a web that just goes through your entire separate sense of life. And then when you see it in that same kind of loving, inclusive quality, you just bring it forward. Well, what is that? And, you know, mostly it's a lack of value, a lack of loving oneself, a lack of, you know, being whole. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, Sharon.
You know, and then it makes it simple. You can take it home and go, well, okay, it's that. And the more you enter it, and I mean not your spiritual mind or not your intellect or not even your psychological mind. It's when you just sort of, you enter it and you kind of open to it. Well, what is that? And how does it play out? And is it actually who I am? Or is it maybe an inheritance of mother, father, culture, karma? Who knows? You know, and the more it's not the person entering it so much as it's awareness entering it, loving it, opening, touching it, and then love itself begins to, or harmony, whatever you want to call, or shared nature, it just starts to unwind it and unfold it and reveal it. And then at a certain point, it no longer exists. That's why, you know, that one retreat where I just really tried to emphasize that over and over and over and over, because it's so obviously we don't see it. But it's the ticket out of the delusion and blaming others in your life and your situation. And I was shocked at how it had infiltrated this whole life. So, and it doesn't negate that there was suffering and abuse and whatever that this also experienced. It doesn't negate that. It actually loves it. Where it can lay down, it's over. Someone else have something? Yeah. Thanks for doing that, Scott.
I just wanted to touch back on earlier when you talked about how much easier it is for us to forgive others and love others, and it's very difficult for us to do it for ourselves. You know, I know I've always been told throughout my life, you're so hard on yourself. And I hear a lot of people talk about, you know, I don't feel worthy, you know, there's that.
I know.
So, yeah, I'm
not sure. You know, my teacher talked about that one time as, especially in the West, I'm sure it must be true in Australia too, I don't know, is that prevalent teaching that we're born in sin. And so I thought, nah, I don't believe that, and I didn't buy into any of that. And so I sit down with it, and sure enough, it was almost like a collective cloud or something. I don't know that we kind of came in. So I'm sure that contributes. I actually haven't come to why we're the last included. But I do know in my own experience, really hard on myself, I mean big time. And in fact, I talked to my sister on the phone, and she's going into deep dementia. And so we can still bring up things occasionally, you know, that are in the past. And that's what she said, Sharon, you were just so hard on yourself. And I just always loved you so much. And I thought, well, why is that? You know, why do we include ourselves sort of at the last? Or it's the opposite, which is I'm the first, I'm the arrogant, I'm going to get what I want, which is just the opposite side of the coin of not enough. But anyway, I don't know what the answer is. I do know when love started to come forward, and no one taught me that, it just happened, and started to infuse, you know, those deep-seated patterns and places of the old red thread keep coming up over and over and over and over. And finally I just went, what is that? And just fully entered it, and fully entered it, and fully entered it, and just stayed there and touched it, and it just filled back up again, and it no longer, and if it does come up, it's just like an old echo. I don't believe it anymore. It's like, oh, there it goes again. And I've noticed even that voice is diminishing.
So just keep following that red thread.
Yeah. Yeah, and love it. I know it sounds kind of Valentine-ish and corny, but love in the big view, right? In the big, we are love. We are made up of love. But when we bring it into the person, then that's where all of the non-deservability and not enough, and we live in a very competitive culture. You know, you're not beautiful enough, you're not thin enough, you're not rich enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. So it's hard not to fall into that. But none of that's true. And you when you step out of it, you just can look at it and you go, oh my God, why would I even compare myself or put myself, it's nuts. You know, it's a level of insanity. But I think you have to just tell yourself what's true. And it comes up because it wants to come home. Or it wouldn't be coming into your consciousness. It wants to lay down and come home again. Yeah. Life's a whole lot more fun. There's this corny movie, and it's old, so I don't think probably it's around anymore. And I think it was French. It was called The Hairdresser's Husband. Did anyone ever see that? Anyway. Yeah, it was a cool movie. But anyway, this guy, and he's in love with this lady, you know, and she likes to dance, and you know, he's not a dancer. And so finally, he just loves this lady so much, and he just wants to relate to her. So he just goes out, and he's real awkward and jerky and, you know, whatever. But he dances like no one is watching. And it was just so compelling and so beautiful. And so I think when we finally just let ourselves be who this gorgeous mask dance is, you just naturally draw people to you because you're so authentic. and so real. And you can allow someone in because you aren't trying to be this or that or not that, or right? So dance like no one's watching. It's a lot more fun. Someone else? Can you hear the layers that unfold and unfold and unfold and unfold and unfold? And even those subtle little movement of a little bit more or a little bit less, and then that even falls away. And it's just this presence, being what you are, moving through life, free. And then whatever dance you're to dance, you will do. I've had wonderful teachers in my life. I've been extraordinarily blessed with wonderful teachers. And I love them and respect them and have a great sense of devotion. But the examples I often pick out are very ordinary people that have woke up. Very ordinary, simple people. Kind of drawn to that. So we have a few in Crestone. Someone else?
I'll come up.
Okay.
Hi. I didn't have like a big agenda. I just kind of wanted to say hi.
I didn't quite hear you.
I don't have a big agenda, but I just wanted to tell you I love you.
I love you. I just see such beauty shining through you. Really happy to see that and welcome and dance with it. Right?
Yeah.
Big
Thank you.
burns are worth it. Big burns are worth it.
Burns?
Burns.
Yeah.
Because this is what can come through. Right?
Yeah, it's all kind of gotten so simple.
I know.
Like confusingly simple to my mind. And it's like all there is to do is rest and rest back. Yeah. And open up and let it all be taken back.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
And yeah, I've been really feeling the Christ strongly and kind of recognizing, I think I have more resonance with that than Buddhist.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's just a different culture and a different...
Yeah, it almost feels like my ancestor. I don't know, there's just this like resonance. But,
Yeah. I have that too.
Yeah, it feels really sweet actually to kind of like redeem that tradition that has been seemingly very distorted and just like...
I'm going to say what was really being given is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And you just have to let go of the other.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. Mostly it was just cultural.
Yeah.
And fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like almost like the hell realms have been raised up. It's not like those aspects of being are gone, but it's like so clear that love wants all of it.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the story of Kuan Yin.
Yeah, I have thought about that story a lot this last year because I thought I had been humbled before, and then I like really learned what humility is this year.
Yeah. That's what it seems to take.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, I'm not enough. And that's just another side of the coin.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like equally grandiose.
Right, right.
Like,
So either way,
yeah.
it's going to be burnt through.
Yeah, and I just feel this like bowedness now, like this posture of like prostration
Yeah.
towards the mystery that
Yeah.
can never be controlled or understood or claimed.
I bow unto that. I bow unto the great way.
Yeah.
It's one of Aj's poems,
Hmm.
right? So you found that.
Yeah, it's just kind of like awe and tears and
I know.
like, and still pain, like,
It
but
comes and it goes.
but it's like, oh, this like rest here. It's like learning to rest through the mess of whatever is. And
Right.
I don't know, it's like crazy simple.
I know, that's the joke. All this complexity and all this reading and all this and all that. And then it's just like, whoa. It's been here all along, pouring through everything. And,
Yeah.
we are that.
Yeah, and I'm just noticing like this call to my like deep authenticity and kind of the letting go of any spiritual ideal
Yeah.
and almost this like homecoming to this like innocence
Yeah.
that
Perfect.
isn't like really that impressive or whatever. It's just like this like almost childlike curiosity and
Well, Jesus says that, right? Come unto me like young children. I can't quite remember. Remember that? Right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And really wanting to be of service, like deeply, and still feeling like fear around, like, is it really safe to be me here on earth? And like working with those layers.
Yeah, you just have to open to that and find out that that's being perfectly safe.
Which
Is being who you are. The infinite, the fundamental,
Yeah.
the eternal, where power comes from, where love arises and expresses. That's being safe. Now the body isn't always safe,
yeah.
right? But you are. And the more you just open to it, the more it just is. It just is the reality of it. It isn't like a nice spiritual ideal.
Yeah.
You find the reality of it.
Yeah. I keep telling my body like safety in God.
Yeah, I am resting in that.
Yeah.
The cells are singing that, right?
Yeah. And there's this like, and this has been happening for some time, but like the falling away of personhood so that it's like, I feel more like this like crystalline like light than a human, or I don't know if it's not a human, but definitely not a person.
Yeah,
And it's kind of
I hear you.
weird.
yeah, I hear you.
It's almost like this like, yeah, like more like a metallic rather than an organic like substrate.
Yeah, well, and radiance makes sense now. Luminous. I've said it many times, but the Queros in Peru call it human luminous. And that's what's unfolding and evolving. And we're finding that within our own being. And we tend to, in this culture, see that as kind of airy-fairy and not, whatever. But it's the actuality.
Yeah.
But it's grounded in the infinite, silent, forevermore, never-ending, deep holding.
Yeah, the phrase deep holding seems to be making more sense.
Good. Yeah, you saw that really quickly and all the way through your system, and it just had to find its way through your life.
Yeah, it's still messy. Ask my partner.
Well, it's I don't know how to say it, but you know what I'm saying. It's real.
Yeah.
I remember, again, Aja pointing to, you will make waves.
Mm.
So go back and just say, I'm sorry, I made a really big wave there, but I couldn't help myself. And then that wave sort of, it clears itself out. Everything is reharmonizing itself.
Yeah.
And you can act out and be, really terrible about it, or if you act out, it's like stored pain, and you come back and say, I'm sorry, it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
It was just really deep stored pain.
Yeah.
And then you move on.
Yeah.
And then in my world, because I went maybe 6-7 months of just, oh my God. My daughter just called it, Mama's, I don't remember what she called it, but I was furious.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost got hauled off by a policeman because I was arguing with him, and it was a stupid rule. And Shayla's going, Mom, shut up, Mom, shut up, Mom. I just couldn't help it. It was just, it just poured out of me, and then it was over.
Mm.
And I had to, kind of clean up some stuff, and then that phase was gone. But it was just stored rage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I saw in myself is like the removal of the repression mechanism.
Right, that's what it is.
Happened last year, and I was always a very good person
Right.
before that, and then I
Yeah.
became a psycho bitch for like
Yeah.
a while, and
I
it was
know.
like, whoa, and that was the humbling, was just like, holy cow, I do contain all of it.
And in a way, pat yourself on the back that you managed to do. I don't mean you. I managed to do as well as I have done with that kind of stored rage.
Yeah.
And but then it was over.
Yeah.
So it's just a part of the play.
Yeah. It's almost, it feels like once all of that feels like there's total acceptance in the system, then it's like, okay, I don't need to rage or storm or whatever
No, it's
anymore.
it's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I can see in your field what is now shining through. I bow down to that in all the lives that it is touching and will continue to touch. That's the deal. This pain and suffering, I can't find it anymore. And then it attempts to serve, and then you can't find that pain and suffering anymore. And then that will be touching others, and they will be able to free that pain and suffering, and then can no longer find that anymore. So it serves itself. All right?
Yeah. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you, my love, for showing up so profoundly. I still remember you up there in the balcony.
My Darth Vader mask on.
And now look at you. I always saw it in you. So, deeply touched.
Yeah, thank you for your teachings
Thank you for showing
and your
up.
love.
It doesn't know how else to do but to serve itself, right? Aren't you finding that? It isn't being a good person. It has nothing to do with it. It's just it naturally unfolds and serves. It naturally unfolds and it serves. And if it serves cleaning a house and doing a beautiful job, you know, being a policeman, being whatever it is, it naturally serves.
Yeah. Yeah, I really feel this prayer. It's like now that I'm not consumed by pain 24/7, it's
Right.
like there's almost nothing left to do
Yeah,
than love
right. That's its function.
and move towards that more and more. And I like my prayer right now is just like, how can I be of deepest benefit?
Yeah. And it'll just happen. It just happens. Which is really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love. Okay. I'm going to offer a guided meditation, and I will say up front that it has been offered before, but I think at this time upon the planet, to know and to realize what the overriding Buddha actually is, and all the great beings that are being called forth at this time on the planet, and all of the great reharmonization, blessing, guidance that is available, that is helpful if we have maybe a simple little ritual or prayer that keeps us in touch with that great grace and great benefit that's constantly available and ever increasing. It's ever increasing. And I know there's different views about this. I can only give you of my own experience. And it's very simple. The Maitreya simply showed up in my life. And for those of you who do know, the Maitreya is, some see it as the future Buddha. Here it seemed like it was the overriding Buddha in this life. It's the sense of genderless. It's the sense of love and compassion. It's the sense of this golden radiance that opens us to our deepest radiant nature, and then it blesses all beings, for they too contain this golden, beautiful, radiant nature. No one is left out. Absolutely no one is left out. It also made me go deeply, and it's a part of my practice now, is that many of you perhaps know about or have sit with Trungpa Rinpoche. And he's considered a tulku and, very extraordinarily wise, and brought Buddhism to the United States in a way that maybe only Suzuki Roshi brought it. And so he was asked what his experience of his nature is. And I love that, and I use that, and I rest and live in that as much as it appears. So to me, the Maitreya, the golden radiance, the blessing channel, and what Trungpa Rinpoche described to me are one and the same thing. So he said, it's like there's a central sun, and the sun pours forth the rays of the sun, life-giving, nourishing, contains us, permeates us, life exists within it, it resolves itself within it, and constantly births and renews itself within it. What holds it and blesses it and permeates it and gives it life is never depleted, only enhanced forevermore. So if you just simply open to this that is pouring forth, and whether it's the great Maitreya that only lives as compassion and love, is not male, not female, not correct in this country or this tradition or this religion. The simple, brilliant, unending radiance of the sun, the golden radiance of full awakening into one's own nature, and then finds that it's shared with everyone, everywhere, at all times, at all places, in all circumstances. And so as it opens into the crown and it descends through the central channel, filling up the whole body, every cell sings with this golden radiance called life, the source and the origin of life. And as it rises up from the feet and the tailbone, up through the central channel, again filling the earth layer of you, the golden radiance of you, that is constantly changing and renewing, and that is constantly the same, the root, eternal, unchanging. So as it descends and ascends within you, it becomes one channel. The descent, the ascent, one whole golden radiant channel. And it moves beyond the outline of the body. That small little tiny container you called me or my body is the deepest illusion of all. So as it fills up with its natural radiance, its natural luminosity, its natural holy presence, then the in and the out dissolve. For that radiates and moves, and the wisdom and the intelligence that flows within the body, the cells of the body live all around, above and below. And it's the same radiance that moves and illuminates into the mountains, the sky, the birds, the animals. Everything is enlivened and nourished and renewed by this. You can call it Buddha mind, you can call it the Christ's nature, the golden radiance that includes and permeates, embraces and reharmonizes and holds everything, visible and invisible. And the blessing, then this life and this body becomes the blessing channel. It pours it forth. It pours it forth without the discernment, this deserves it, this doesn't deserve it, there is no, it's unconditional here. It just naturally pours itself forth. And may all beings receive this. May all beings be renewed by this. May all beings awaken to this. And then this life, this beautiful but yet very ordinary life, it becomes a blessing channel. And it may just take a walk, it may go into a store or a restaurant, or it may enter a place of chaos and anger, fear. And it's not that it finds that wrong. It just simply is the blessing channel, and it just pours it forth. And it touches, transmutes, renew, inspires, gives solace, whatever is drawn forth. Because it's infinite. as it flows out, it's constantly filled back up, even greater. And then it constantly pours out and it fills back up, even greater. As it is given, so it is received. One channel. And though it is a prayer, may all beings be touched and know this, be healed and find benefit. But it equally comes back to this that has recognized itself as the blessing channel. This is a profound contribution to the earth and all that is taking place upon the earth. Profound contribution. We can be this and share this and bless from this. And then how you can be of benefit, maybe a little bit more in the personal life, then it just shows up. And there's no hierarchy here. Hierarchy does not exist here. So let this unfold in your life exactly, perfectly for you. The pouring forth and the receiving, the pouring forth and the receiving, and drawing upon the great Maitreya, the great Christ, the great Cosmic Mother, all that is. Make it intimate. And forever be the blessing channel. So just in your own way, experience that. In your body, in your cells, above, below, all around, and all the different dimensions that are dedicated to the human evolution happening now. And the infinite gratitude that this is available in our lives. The unimaginable gratitude. Let us dedicate our lives to devotion to that. And so be it. Thank you so much. May your journey be safe back to your lovely land. I'd like to go see your land sometime. And thank you for coming.